Chat, how are we feeling about the pancake?
Check one, two, check one, two. We missed last week because Josephine had to record a show. So I just watched Mad Men and Drew instead. But greetings. Welcome. We're back. It might be a shorter stream today, but we are going to go over a few things for some people I'm mentoring. So let me go through that real quick because I can't necessarily stay on too long, but I want to record the video for the people that I'm doing the mentoring ship for. So I'm going to do a quick little how-to, little work in progress, not work in progress, like a how-to, a demo, if you will. And that's going to be the first thing we do today. I got Toe Jam and Earl in the background. It should be good because it's video game music, so I think we'll be okay listening to it. Let me just get my NDI started up. I gotta move the window. Okay, the window's moved. Come on. Okay, window's moved. We're online. Let me just get the NDI started. NDI. Click to begin broadcasting. Start broadcasting. Okay, I just need to get I'll get a file open. Okay. So like I said, we can't work too long today, but I wanted to at least get this part recorded, so let's take a look at NDI, iPad. There we go. There it is. Okay, perfect. This is some work I'm doing for Near Dark Studios. I'm designing a set of characters for Near Dark Studios, and this is how far I've gotten on this first character. I'm going to work on this later tonight, but I might have to do it off stream because my dog might not let me go. But we'll see. We'll see how long we can go. But this is kind of brings me into the demo we're talking about here. And what I really want to start talking about is thumbnails. So like thumbnails, they're the first part of the design process when you're concepting. Well, let me rephrase that. They're the second part of the design process when you're thumbnailing. The first part is doing research. So if you're following along with any kind of concept design process, you're going to find yourself looking up research and references. So on this file, I have a reference page of these costumes that I looked up, but this represents a small part of the research that was done for this character. There's a mood board I have for my client that we both collaborated on. It's mainly my client, actually, because they have a specific idea what they want in mind. And I basically took that that info that they put forward and expanded upon it a little bit with my own reference board. And I was focusing more on silhouettes and shapes based on some of the ideas they had. So my little reference board's here. So if you're doing the mentorship, basically what you're going to want to do is get your research done. So whatever character you're designing or environment, it could be anything, environment, weapon, character, you want to kind of define the backstory for what you're designing in and the world. So we'll use an example like the movie Dune or the book Dune. It's a sci-fi story set on this desert planet that's covered in sand. So if you're designing a character that's going to live in the Dune world, you would need to design them knowing there's a really hot planet covered in sand, and that will impact the design influence of the characters. And so in the Dune book, the characters wear these still suits which preserve the moisture. And that's something that you might not think to design if the characters were on like a beach. You know, it would probably be like a different vibe entirely if Dune was like some kind of water planet. That would be like an entirely different, visual set, entirely different influence. So we need to define your world. You need to define the story. So ideally you have a story in mind you're designing for, whether it's your own story or whether it's a story from, literature you're designing for. You pick your story out, pick the setting. If you're combining things, like let's say you're going to do the Three Little Pigs. So you're going to tell the story of the Three Little Pigs, but in your version of the story, they're all going to be humans and they're going to be space colonists on a planet that has a harsh environment with like acidic rain. Okay, so that'll influence the look of the characters and that'll influence the environment itself, right? So in that case, you would think about like, okay, well, if it's an acidic, harsh environment, maybe the characters need to wear some kind of protective suit. So by default, they all need to have a protective suit. Maybe each character has a different protective suit, because remember the story of the Three Little Pigs is that each character builds their house out of different materials. So maybe each character has a different way of dealing with a harsh environment in their own unique manner. And then you have some kind of monster they're protecting their environment from. So like in the story of Three Little Pigs, it's a big bad wolf. But in your sci-fi colonist story, it could be some kind of like Ravager beast that comes at night. And so they're all protecting their house from this beast. So that's kind of a quick breakdown of how you can kind of develop a story idea into your basic topic that you're going to design from. And then you think of the environment, and the environment would be a toxic planet. That's kind of the environment, right? Okay, so you do your research. In the case of the image you see on the screen, the story is that this guy has magical tech. Like he's got this magic cell fuel system, and he's got a flight suit. So he's got like a jetpack ability to jump from like airships. That's kind of the loose story. I'm just kind of paraphrasing it here. And we kind of wanted to take some inspiration from steampunk, but we didn't want to set it in the Victorian age. we wanted to set it instead in like the Renaissance. So that's why I pulled in these like Renaissance looking dudes. There are some more historical costumes, and there's some costumes from like a film and television show. But they're all influenced by the same Renaissance style that is going to inform the silhouette. And then I pulled in the Rocketeer because he's like a famous flying jetpack guy that has a vintage look. So I thought, okay, well, he's probably going to have some good poses. He's probably going to have some good just poses was the number one reason I pulled in Rocketeer. But the secondary look is just that like he's got like this diesel punk look. So if I can maybe translate that diesel punk into this steampunky Renaissance look, we could kind of come up with something fresh and new. So that's kind of my mindset behind the references, right? So I have these references pulled up. I think I had some more here. There's some more costumes here. And I find these on Pinterest. I know Pinterest has lots of AI schlock and garbage, but it's still possible to find some decent references on there. But I pull them all off of Pinterest, and I kind of get them on some screenshots and then just get them into my program as fast as I can so I can get away from the reference boards. And then I start making thumbnails. So thumbnails. Let me just name this layer real quick. Let's just call this sketch. Okay. I'm going to turn this off. And thumbnails are going to be your first exploration into the visuals of any kind of character, or weapon, or environment. And you're going to want to push yourself to do a bunch of thumbnails. So I did like these thumbnails for this project. I think there's let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 40. I did 40 thumbnails in order to basically get the ideas out of my head and force me to come up with something fresh. Because once you start repeating the exercise of like drawing out your most basic ideas, you're naturally going to want to try new things. And so as you progress through the thumbnails, they'll start off generic and they'll progress into something more interesting. So the top thumbnail was, I even varied up the technique and how I did the thumbnails. So like my first thumbnail, I used 3 different tones. You can see right here, it's this guy. And you see how loose it is. It's very broken in terms of like anatomy and like proportion. But it's a very loose idea that you can read from afar. Cancel that. My second thumbnail, I tried just a few tones, basically 2-tone with the white being for the head. And then from then on, I switched it to just black and white. And you can see how quick these are. It took me, I don't know, I spent like a few hours doing these. It takes me about maybe 10 minutes to do a thumbnail, maybe less. 10 minutes tops. Try not to go over 10 minutes. But they're all different poses. They're all different takes on the silhouette breakup. The silhouette's the main focus on these thumbnails. But if I zoom in, you can see how quick they are, how dirty they are. They're very loose. And that's what you're going to want for your thumbnails. You can tighten up your thumbnails a lot. Like this one's pretty loose right here. But the more you tighten up your thumbnail, you're just going to be saving your time later in the sketch phase. So you can choose to do messier thumbnails like what I did, or you can do really tight thumbnails. And then later on in the sketch phase, you'll work less time in the sketch phase. I like to spend a little more time in the sketch phase and less time in the thumbnail phase. But it's basically a trade-off. You don't have to do one way or the other. Some people choose to do really tight thumbnails that they sketch less on, and some people do really loose thumbnails they sketch more on. There's not really a right or wrong way, so you can excuse yourself from that. You just choose the path you want to take. So 40 thumbnails, these are what I did. And out of the 40 thumbnails, I picked out my top 10. I did 10, I guess I did 13. I did 10, and then I picked out 3 that had some more interesting poses. And this is what I presented to my client, because I wanted to kind of keep them in early in this design phase for this project. So you got the 10 main ones and then a couple bonuses. And my client picked out their favorite. And from their favorite, I take like the top 3, and you can kind of see them here. And then I draw on top. And this is where I start cleaning up the proportions and poses a little bit. And then from there, out of these 3, we combined elements of our favorites. So we took like the head of 2 and the pose of 3 and the chest portion of 1 and combined it all into this guy. Let me turn off those back layers. So he's all the combined version. There's still some proportion stuff I need to work out. And this is still a rough sketch. So this is not anything that we're going to be developing directly. What I'll probably do is I'll probably take this sketch, tone it down like 15%, 10%, draw on top of it a tighter sketch. And on that tighter sketch, I'll fix anatomy. I'll fix perspective. I'll fix everything that needs to be fixed. And that'll be the next phase to this process. And that's kind of how we're structuring the little mentorship we're doing here. We're kind of developing design in these stages. And the basic stages follow a typical design pipeline for characters. And this will work for anything. You can do this with guns, or you can do this with vehicles, with creatures. Different people handle it different ways. Some people do like tone for the thumbnails. Some people do line for the thumbnails. I typically do line myself, but using tone is a smart way of working too. Using shape and tone. When I say tone, I mean just blocks of shape. So let me show you a quick example of like a thumbnail process. So I'm gonna pull my iPad over, and gotta move the mic just a little bit. Okay. Let's pretend I'm designing on a new project, and the new project is it's a set of scavengers in a sci-fi wasteland. They're scavengers, and they're digging up wreckage to piece together technology for their own survival. So they're all just scavengers. So the keywords there I'm taking away are like they're digging, scavenger, and let's say the planet is like it's kind of a temperate planet. It's not too hot, not too cold. It leans more to the hot side, but not like unbearably hot. So we'll say it's slightly warm, the planet. Humid. It's a humid planet. And yeah, I think that's a good enough. Like, let's just call that the info we're pulling from it. They're diggers, scavengers. It's warm and humid. So what we first want to do is pull out some references. So I'm going to go over to my window here, and I'm just going to search up like I'm going to search up things that dig. So obviously we could look up like tools. So we could look up like shovels. I'm just going to write it down because I don't want to literally spend all the time doing the research here. Shovels, hose, pickaxe. So what are the tools that dig? Drills. Okay. And then let's also think about like animals that dig. Let's do moles, worms. Moles, worms. What burrows? Like a rabbit, meerkat. Rabbit. Moles, worms, rabbit. I don't know if he spelled this meerkat. I think I might be spelling that wrong. You get the idea though. It's meerkat. I'll look it up. Okay, it's spelled with a K and 2 E's. Meerkat. Okay, so like a meerkat, type of mongoose. Okay. So these are animals that dig. These are tools that dig. And the reason I'm looking up animals that dig is because I want to think of like shapes for the silhouettes that I'm going to be thumbnailing. So like moles have claws. Worms, let's think of tubes. Rabbits also have claws, but also they jump. So maybe the capability to jump is a cool thing to have for these thumbnails. Meerkats are like, they have a long silhouette. So maybe we won't even. I'm just thinking of how they look when they stand up tall to look around the prairie or the savannah. So maybe there's something to do with that. I don't know what yet, but maybe something interesting. And then, of course, drills, pickaxe, shovels, and hose, those all have their own shape involved already, right? Scavenger. A vulture is a scavenger. So maybe there's something with the vulture's shape language that we could like look into. A hyena is a scavenger. Maybe something with a hyena look, like just the shape of them. Roach, maybe a roach, some kind of cockroach thing. Okay. And then warm. So warm means not too bulky. Not too bulky. No thick layers. No thick layers. And then humid. If it's a humid, maybe they wear less clothes. So even though they're scavenger diggers, they're not wearing like layers and layers of clothing to dig. They might be, think of it like people that live in the Amazon. They wear like very little clothing because it's so warm and humid. They don't want the clothing sticking to them all the time. We'll have to think of a compromise because, you know, this is our own made up world. Okay. So let's say you pulled all these images. You pulled images of moles and axes and drills, and you're gonna want to choose like, let me type in pickaxe into Google real quick and just see what comes up. This is like a really generic search. Pickaxe. I'm seeing a bunch of generic pickaxes. The main shape we're going to think about is this, like basically a spike. It's a T shape. A spike with a stick. Shovel. Let's think about what's the shovel look like? Okay. What I'm seeing is this spade shape, and it sometimes has a handle. Not always, but sometimes. Some shovels look like this, like they're just long rectangles. Okay, so that's like a general idea of the shovel. Let's look at drills. Drills, and let me look at like a big drill. So what I'm seeing is there are some large drills that are used for like digging for oil. Those look like basically that screw shape, but they've got big blades. There's big drills that are used for digging like long holes for like poles and spikes. And then there's the kind of drills that are used for mining. Those have like teeth, and there's like these discs of teeth, and they basically grind up rock. There's like teeth like this, and then like it's on a structure, so you got these like teeth, and like everything basically turns with I'm drawing arrows, it's hard to tell. Like everything kind of turns and processes rock, and that's what like a big mining drill looks like. And keep in mind, I'm rushing through this process to show you on stream right now, to save out a video for YouTube for people to watch. The kind of research I think you would need to do for like working in a studio, or if you're really legitimately working on a project, you probably want to spend at least half your day researching, maybe a full day, really researching, like really looking up interesting things. There's a Big Bertha drill in Seattle that is like, it's almost like 3 stories tall. It's like a big disc, and it's got like rows of like teeth, and it's for like tunneling for subways. It's for like making subway tunnels. So that's the kind of drill that, you know, obviously someone wouldn't carry it, but we can maybe pull some inspiration from a big drill like that. Okay. So that's some drills, right? Vulture. Let's look up a vulture real quick. This is a scavenger. So a vulture has a head, a neck, and a body, and it, you know, the kind of big feathery body. It's got claws in its feet. It's got a sharp beak. Some vultures have no feathers in their head. Some have like a fluff feathers in their head. But that's like a general vulture shape. What I'm basically doing is I'm drawing like quick analysis drawings of like, you know, if you've never drawn before, you want to spend more time on these drawings and be like, let me really study these creatures. There's some interesting vultures that have like the king vulture. So the king vulture has like this head and an eye, and it's got this like piece of this beak that comes off. It's like a piece of skin, and then the beak's here, and then it's got this like wrinkly bit here, and then this is all red, like this is like red, and then the beak is red, and then like the the feathers down here are like really fluffy. Not fluffy, like soft. They look soft. So that's like a king vulture. So there's the different types of vultures you could pull ideas from. And then let's also look up moles real quick. For your own process, you'd want to look up every single thing. Moles have very teeny eyes. You almost don't even see the eyes. They're like specks. And they got this nose, almost like a pig nose. And then they're just like fluffy, furry little body. And they've got these big claw hands, or paws. And then so they got these claws. So the takeaway is a very small eye region, some kind of big sensory region, and claws. So we can translate that into maybe some kind of mask that these scavengers use, and some kind of digging device on their arms maybe that they use. That could be cool. And then finally, let's look up. I'm just going to look up workers in Brazil. Because what I'm trying to think about is like, what do people who work outside in like a humid climate dress like? And then here I found some pictures of guys that are like dressed for like construction work in Brazil. Let me draw what I see. So they're wearing like some kind of shirt with a collar, and there's an undershirt, and then they've got like this like stripe across the shirt, and they're wearing, in the drawing I'm seeing, they're wearing some kind of safety harness, and their shirt's kind of like tucked in. And then they've got like these, they got some kind of safety harness. Because I think what I'm looking at is people that work on like high, like superstructures. So they got this like safety harness on. And then they got these pants that are not too tight, not too loose. So it's kind of like that. They got gloves. They're wearing gloves. Obviously, I'm doodling. I'm not like doing an accurate study. They wear hard helmets. Hard helmets. They got this cool V shape in the helmet. It's like a V on top, and then it's got the visor. And then they appear to be wearing sunglasses because it's Brazil and it's sunny. So that's what I'm seeing from like my first initial search. That's like a very rudimentary search. Let me see if I can find anything else that's interesting. What I'll do is I'll click on the image that I liked, and I'll scroll down on Google, and it'll show me similar images. Maybe there's something similar. There's like oil rig workers. They're wearing one-piece suits. Trying to think of. Let me just type in miners now, because we're talking about scavengers that dig. So okay, so miner, and this is like a classic miner outfit. Let me pull this up. So on a miner, they've got a light in their helmet. It's different from a typical construction worker. And some of the miners I'm seeing in these pictures have like a collar, and it's like a vest, and it's like a safety vest where it's like a khaki vest with safety stripes, and then they're wearing that over a one-piece outfit with safety colors. There's reflective colors on their outfit. Safety colors. Like there's like a stripe on their leg. That's kind of what I'm seeing for the they're wearing boots. So boots, one piece outfit, safety stripes. Okay. So ideally you're doing this kind of study research session over the course of maybe a few hours, you know, taking your time. And you've done your written research, you've done your Google search, you pulled a mood board of all the images that I'm talking about. You'd have pulled them onto a reference board, whether it's Pinterest or a Miro board, and then you might do some practice drawing, where you're gonna like maybe just practice drawing, like if the boot looks really interesting, maybe draw the boot, or if there's an interesting looking like animal, maybe draw like the shape of the animal. So you get all the research done, and let me see. Let me make sure I'm not skipping any chat info. You do all the research. You're going to then need to start doing your thumbnails. You've absorbed the research. You did the research. And now you got to do a thumbnail. So I'm going to turn off this little page that I just drew. And I'm now going to make a new layer, and I'm going to think of a brush that'll help me do the thumbnail correctly. I want a brush that's like opaque, that's like black, pure black. So I'm going to go to my ink brushes. And I want a brush that's got some interesting shapes. So let's maybe use the Studio Pen. So you can see what it looks like. It's kind of a black pen. Okay, so it's a scavenger. It's a digger person. They dig. And they're on a kind of a humid planet. So the humidity is a little high. So let's keep that in mind as we go forward with this. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm gonna start drawing. So this is how small I'm gonna draw. I'm gonna keep the screen this size. I'm not gonna zoom in anymore, and you'll see how small I work. So let's do like a head. The guy's got a head, and he's got shoulders. He's got arms with blades, digging blades. You can't even see the blades because this brush isn't working that well. Let me switch my eraser real quick. Eraser needs to be way smaller. Oh, and the brush needs to be smaller. So like digging blades. Disarm. Got these like digging blades. Maybe it's got like an exosuit. So I'm going to indicate some kind of like bulky extremity. So it's like this exosuit with these like digging blades. And then just kind of come down here and get some legs. Got boots on. Got boots on. Okay, you might want to clean it up just a little bit. if you're doing the thumbnails, you might want to clean it up. Like I said, the more you clean it up, the more you tighten it up, the less work you do later. Maybe we put in the light bulb on his helmet. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit to the light bulb. Zoom back out. Maybe there's like the armature of the exosuit comes across the chest. And then you've got some, you got like a kind of a gap between the armature and the arms. And I don't want his foot to look too pointy. Fix that just a little bit. Okay, so that's like a thumbnail. Like, you kind of read it. If you wanted to, you clean it up some more. For me, that's a good first thumbnail. So if I zoom in, you can see how trashy it looks. You know, like if I were to really clean it up, I'd come in here and like clean up this part. If you wanted to really make it like sing, you don't need to use your brush either. If you don't feel confident using your brush to make the thumbnail, I know plenty of artists that do what's called shape carving. And what they'll do is they'll use the lasso tool and they'll like lasso in shapes, fill it, and then like move on and like lasso in shapes and like fill it. So maybe the exosuit comes down here and attaches to the legs. So he's got like exosuit legs. Maybe that's part of this costume or this outfit. Something like that, maybe. You see how quick and dirty it is. You can clean it up. You can come over here and like tighten it up some more. Like, okay, maybe you can tighten this up so it's not so. Something like that. And then you zoom it out, you're gonna. As long as it reads well from the zoom out position, that's kind of the most important part. So that's like one thumbnail. What I like to personally do, once I do one thumbnail, I like to turn it off. I'll start from a blank slate, and then I'll do another thumbnail. This one, the guy will have like a pickaxe arm. A pickaxe arm and some kind of shovel blade thing. Sometimes the thumbnail, I draw it a little too big, but I'll just shrink it down. Maybe they have a light bulb on the chest. Like it's like a light source on the chest. It might be too much like Iron Man, but let's just try it for the sake of, you know, trying it for one thumbnail. And they got reflective tape. Like the miners we saw in our references had reflective bands on their pants. So we do like reflective bands. And then reflective bands here. And then some kind of interesting helmet mask. Maybe there's like toxic gas where they're scavenging and digging. So they need to wear like a special gas mask. And maybe this guy's got like a robotic arm. So we never said that they can't have that. So like, might as well try it out. Maybe he's got this robotic arm. It's like a pickaxe piston arm. Just clean it up some more. Something like that. Maybe it's something like that. This is just a shoveling arm. So okay. Maybe it's got like this oxygen tube from the face. Something similar like that. So, okay, so that's like a second. So I'll turn on the other thumbnail. I'll move my second thumbnail over. You see how much bigger I drew it? I said, okay, I'll just shrink it down. Okay. Now, like I said, I'm rushing through this right now for the example. You could spend more time on it. Let me switch to a brush I really like. Okay, so I like drawing with line rather than shapes. Shapes are great for lots of people, but I like to draw with line. So let's try it with line. Let's do like he's like a vulture like mask that's a gas mask. So he's got like these eyes and it's like a gas mask. And so this tube goes down onto like a kind of a gas mask pouch, like oxygen tank thing. And then like maybe he's got some kind of like jacket with a feather. We said no, it shouldn't. It's supposed to be warm weather, but let's just put on some kind of like loose, just to get a silhouette of like a vulture. Some kind of like feathery collar. And then we'll scribble in some like noise, which when we shrink it, we'll read as just detail. The other thing you could research before you do the thumbnails is a pose. You might want to draw them in an interesting pose, which I didn't really do. Okay. He's going to carry this big pickaxe. It's almost like a scythe, like a death scythe. But it's for like breaking huge rocks. The other side of it's like a spike for digging holes. Maybe this hand has some kind of like flashlight thing. Something like that, where it's like a mask, gas mask. The tube goes down here. He's got some straps on, like a strappy harness thing. Clean up the shape of the head a bit. And then, like, to me, you can clean this up further if you want. For what I'm doing right now, I kind of get the idea. So I'd move it over and just be like, okay. So that's like three ideas real quick. Hey, Dan. But I kind of see how quick I'm going with them. You might want to clean them up more, right? Like I said, the more you clean up the thumbnail, the less work you do later. But it's really your choice. You know, like I prefer to sketch more later. So like for me, making them quick and dirty is a little bit easier for me to like imagine stuff. If I tighten it up too much, then I feel like I'm spending too much time on a bad idea, because some of these ideas are stupid. Like this first idea is not the most awesome idea. So that's like 3 little thumbnails. And you can see how long that took me. Let's see, how long have we been streaming for? We've been streaming for about an hour. So in about an hour, I did some like brief research, wrote down ideas, did some quick studies, and then I started doing thumbnails. These are very uninformed because, like I said, you'd really want to do more research than what I'm doing for this video. But in an hour's time, we did the research, a quick brief research, and we started doing 3 thumbnails. And you'd want to do at least, I push for like, if you're really trying to design something, the more thumbnails, the better. 40 to 50 is a good number to shoot for. You got to really put some work into it. So let me go back to the other thumbnails I actually did for the project, because you can see how loose they are again. Like I said, proportions are broken, anatomy is broken, but you get the idea of what I'm sketching out with these thumbnails. I'm capturing certain poses that I want to maybe expand upon later in my sketches. These poses were because this guy, remember, he has a jetpack and he jumps around. So I wanted to give him this looking like this, like he's lighting his feet, like he's like hopping around. I took some inspiration from like a praying mantis for this one. I was trying to get like praying mantis inspiration for some of them, and I tried getting inspiration from like Renaissance, like Commedia dell'arte masks and like theater performers. So that was kind of where some of these came from. Like this guy, like that Zanny. I think that's the name of the Zanny with the long nose. These are some of like the thumbnails that I did for myself. And typically when you're designing with thumbnails and stuff, you're not actually showing anyone the thumbnails. I think typically when you're designing in this stage, you're just doing the thumbnails for yourself, and then you show the sketches to the client. In my case, I wanted to involve the client in early with this design process because we're defining this world from more of a fundamental perspective. So that's kind of why I invited my client in early. But I would normally do all the thumbnails just for you to get all the ideas out. And then you get your sketches, your rough sketches, and you show those to the client. So like these rough sketches would be the first thing I show. If you're working with me and I'm mentoring you, show me everything. Don't just skip out on that. Like, you know, show me the thumbnails, show me the sketches, show me everything, because we got to like work the whole process. So that's kind of a general idea of where we're going. Next steps for me on this character: once you've done the thumbnails, you do the sketches, and then you refine the sketch. Is to do the actual like detailed draw over and start really like working out the ins and outs of what you're looking at. Because you'll notice on the sketch that I'm currently looking at, let me get like a blue color here. There's nothing like, this is all like there's just a shape. There's no like detail, or like there's no like nuance to the shape. Like, we're thinking of Renaissance stuff, so like think about Renaissance architecture or like Renaissance design. We're not reflecting that in this shape here, so I need to like draw over that and reflect it in the shape. Same with some of like this gauntlet thing, and the gun is not even designed at all. I'm gonna go in and do a separate design phase for the gun and the sword. Those will have their own design phases. That'll be similar to this, where I thumbnail, sketch, and develop. But that's kind of how you break everything down. But that should be everything you need to know. 40 to 50 thumbnails is a good starting point. If you want to do more, you can do more. If you don't have time to do enough, try and shoot for 20 to 30. I think that's a good, like, beginner 20 to 30. But keep in mind, people that are studying design and concept, they're pushing themselves to do like 100 thumbnails. You know, they're pushing themselves to do like a crazy amount of thumbnails because they want to get the best idea out there. And you're going to get the best idea the more you draw. And like, you can skimp on the drawing skill, can be kind of skimped on early, where the thumbnails are really loose and dirty. Like, I think most people could do thumbnails even if they don't know how to draw that well. Developing them out later, that's when you have to really think about, okay, how do I draw? And the only way to learn how to draw is to draw more. Make yourself draw more and just practice. Go in stages. So like this sketch that I have here, I'll turn it down. I'll start a new layer. Let me find a pen. I'll do like this pen, and I'll come in here with a tighter pen, and I'll like I'll start doing the details. Maybe there's like a curve here, and maybe there's like some kind of like another curve, like a decorative curve here, and like this here could have like a curve, kind of looks more like a nostril. Um, something like this. And you got like another thing. Anyway, I'm not drawing it symmetrically because I'm not actually going to draw it on here right now. But maybe it's got like this other kind of curve here, and this curve is over here. This curve's up here. this cuts in here like a little design line, and so you start putting in the details. And if this looks too rough and you're still like, I kind of want it to look cleaner, all you do is just tone this down, start new layer, shrink your brush down just a little bit, and then do a tighter drawing. And then you just do layers. So like if you don't get it as clean as you'd like the first time, just do a tighter pass. And then this curve, you like really flesh it out. And then maybe this curve comes up here. And you just spend a little more time. So like I'm going a little slower this time, because I really want to like get this shape going nicely. And then something like, you do another pass, you do a tighter pass, and there's no limit. If you feel like you're not nailing it the first time, just do a tighter pass on it. You don't need to like settle. If you're like, oh, I guess I gotta do 3 or 4 passes to get the drawing tight enough and clean enough to move forward, and that's okay. Do 3 or 4 passes. I think the music stopped. Let me turn that off. I don't want it to skip to another song. Okay, good. It's not skipping. Do 3 or 4 passes. You don't need to limit yourself, like I said. You can start seeing like the details. If if I were to do a whole pass on this whole thing, maybe this this thing here has got like this like flourishy pass on this stuff here, so it's got these interesting shapes going on, this interesting shape language. Maybe not this, because like I said, it should look more Renaissance. So I'm just doing like a random like whatever pass just to show y'all as like an example. Like maybe something like that. And you got all these little cuts and flourishes, and then the cloth here on this like shoulder pad thing. Maybe this is like more of like it like comes out into a point, and then like here it's like a little thinner, and this kind of like does like kind of something like that. Like you kind of like put in those details on each pass. You do a tighter, you do more detail, do more flourish, and that could be how you do it. I'm gonna erase these just because that's not actually how I want to do this yet. But that's what I will do later, like probably later tonight. But like I'm not gonna stream that part just because I need to jump offline to do some other work. But I wanted to get this whole video recorded because I wanted to show you thumbnail process, general quick rundown of how I do it. I have a hard time streaming the thumbnail process, as I found out a few weeks ago, because there's so much thought going into the thumbnails that I don't have a good conversation running with the stream. So like it's hard for me to talk to the stream and do my thumbnails because I get too distracted with like what I'm kind of coming up with, which you might find this early phase it's harder to like do anything else besides design. And then the phase I'm on right now, where I'm going to flesh out this drawing, it's more about figuring out proportions So before I draw over this drawing, I'm probably going to adjust the arms a little bit. Like I feel like this arm needs to maybe like move out like up here just a little bit. And so I'm going to fix all that stuff first, then I'll do the draw over. And then after I start doing the draw over, it's a little more easy to talk through it because you're just going to be following the established lines that you've already sketched. So you kind of got like a framework to draw over. And then you'll just kind of work on top of that. And then you do all the details, and then you start doing the coloring. And the coloring, for me, when it gets to the coloring stage, that's the easiest to talk over because you're just like paint by numbers at that point. You really have to just finish painting, and there's not much thought into the ins and outs of what you're doing as it is early on. So yeah, so that's kind of the breakdown. I hope that makes sense. Feel free to ask me any questions in the chat, or if you're on YouTube watching this, you can ask me questions in the comments. If you follow me on Discord, my username is Mike086. You could feel free to message me with questions if you're interested in what we're doing here. I'm just mentoring a couple people, and I'm kind of running them through the design process. And ideally, by the time they're done, they'll have a nice portfolio to showcase. And I'm going to jump offline because I've got client work that I can't show on stream that I need to prioritize. So I'll be working on that stuff tonight. I think the next time you see this guy, he'll have his new line pass done. And I think I should be able to just paint him on stream next Tuesday. So yeah, next Tuesday will be goal for just painting him on stream. Or I have another piece I can paint on stream. Let me show you. There's this piece for the Arcanist Tavern I'm working on, which is, where is it? Oh, here it is. I didn't recognize it because it's got the colors. There's this piece by Arcanist Tavern I'm working on. I need to start painting them up. This one's due like mid-April, so I might be painting this next week. I'm going to start the lighting pass tonight, but I think by next week I'm just going to be rendering, and it'll be easy for me to render and just talk to y'all on stream for the whole evening. So these are the two pieces. It's this Arcanist piece, and then it's the Near Dark Studios piece, which is the dude with the jetpack. But he's one of 7. So like after I get through with Near Dark, this guy, there's going to be 6 more to do. So I'll try and stream as much of this as I can. Like I said, I have a hard time with the thumbnail phase, but if we get enough people chiming in, maybe I'll just stream the thumbnail phase and just be silent, but like you could at least see it next time I do the next character. I tried doing it like last couple weeks ago, and like I said, I was just having a hard time paying attention to the chat, and like I needed to get this stuff done, so it was like I'm just gonna jump off stream. But yeah, that should be everything. I'll upload this video to YouTube if you follow me on YouTube. It's the same username, Mike086. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Have a good evening. I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for the stream. I guess that's what you should be saying, but thanks for joining me for the stream, and I will talk to y'all later.